As one Crookshank, your one and only Move Swiftly speaker, checking in for a daily Move Swiftly thought, giving you a perspective on teamwork that you will not get anywhere else. Fell 3 miles short of my goal today. Goal was 10. Tapped out at 7. Paying attention to my body. Know why? Days like this, I make sure I document it. I'm on the record, letting you guys know every day. I don't hit the goal every single day. All right, I'm gonna be on this camera every single day, whether I hit the goal in mileage or not. Today's goal was 10, had to cut it at 7. Knowing why, as I actually decided to make the business decision and pay attention to my body and the fact that my legs are starting to cramp up. I know it's primarily because I literally had a gallon of water yesterday and 1 meal, all right? Gallon of water and 1 meal. My fault. I'm not blaming anybody. It's my fault. Came back from Orlando on Saturday. That's Sunday. I kind of procrastinated with a little bit of the work I was supposed to do, so I had to catch up on some things to play catch up this past yesterday, Monday. Recording this, by the way, Tuesday, August 20th, 2024. Had to play catch up and get an article finished later that night. Get back to, I teach at this school, so I have to get back to kind of in the flow of what I need to be doing as a teacher, my obligations there. Had a couple podcast interviews, had a couple things to follow up on from the event, all that kind of stuff. So I taking responsibility for letting the time get away from me and not eating properly going into my Tuesday runs, which are normally my long run days. So seeing that I had to do that, I have to make the sacrifice now. Tomorrow's a speed workout, but Thursday, you better believe a half marathon plus is coming, 13 plus miles. You can book it, all right? I don't take these days lightly. I try to make up for it. And, the previous days I've gone 7, 8, 6. If you've been keeping up with the videos, I was there. So all that being said, I know you don't want to hear me ramble about my running schedule. Let's get into today's Move Swiftly thought, which is, it's Tuesday, so I'm counting down my top five every single Tuesday, by the way. I do a top 5 Tuesday where there's a specific topic based on the relevancy and what's going on in the world. I give you a top 5 countdown of my favorite things based on what's happening in the world. And we are about 10 days away now, I believe, from college football officially starting, the 2024 season officially kicking off. And I always get the chills, always get the itch this time of year, seeing that I'm incredibly connected to the sport, how much of my business depends on this particular sport to do the right thing. All right, we'll say it like that, to do the right thing, to maintain a level of integrity, to maintain a level of high quality in the sport that's going to do nothing but positive things. Obviously, in everything, there's going to be some negatives that come with it. There's going to be some trade-offs that come with it. But college football is where my core is. It's my core in terms of my business, my life, my philosophy, everything I think about and how I operate. College football created this monster that you see every single day, putting his all in. All right. So today, top 5 moments in college football history from me, from as one Crookshank's perspective. And this is going to be different for every single person that has something that they're very passionate about when it comes to counting down their top 5 moments. And the special thing about these top 5 moments, and I could not wait to get to this because all 5 of them, I'm connected. It connects me. It makes me think about a teammate I had, co-workers I've had, clients I've had in the past, and it connects me to something that really keeps it so I stay hungry, stay humble, stay grounded. And even days like this when I don't actually hit the goal in mileage, I know, hey, look, you got teammates, you got people with you got people that, you don't got to do everything on your own. You're going to have those days where you just don't got it, or you're not hitting the goal, or you got to say, look, I got to sit this one out because I know my teammates got my back, right? So coming in number 5, it's back in 2009 or 10 season. I believe it was 2009. Either 2009 or 10. I was already at Stony Brook, and that was the goal. So I started out my college football playing career at Carson-Newman College, Division II program in Tennessee, and I redshirted. And a couple of my, the friends that I had, the closest friends, I got best friends on the team were a cat named B Smooth, T-Bird, and who's been on the podcast, The title of his episode is High School Football. B Smooth has been on the podcast as well. The title of his episode is Half Face. So it's Ant, B Smooth, T Bird, Ron Say, and Chris Brooks. Those are like my 5 motherfucking dudes that I used to bang with when I was at Carson Newman, right? So I transferred from a D2 to a Division I program in Stony Brook. And when I got to Stony Brook, B Smooth had already got to South Carolina. You know, he transferred as well. None of us, by the way, stayed at Carson Newman. But B Smooth transferred to South Carolina, and that was the year that South Carolina won the SEC East title to go up against Alabama. And I remember watching that game when I was at Stony Brook, and I saw B Smooth. He had that number 23. He was on special teams at that moment, and he's pumping up the crowd, getting them hyped, the whole thing. You know, he's from Columbia, so that was a really, that had to make the list in terms of my top 5, because I remember actually texting him that night and saying, hey, congrats. So, man, saying congrats, bro. It meant a lot to see him make it. It was a feeling that we all have something we can be doing. We all have something to be a Division II guy, and then to go out and play at an SEC school, to get on the field at an SEC school, it's a big deal, right? So that comes in at number 5. Number 4 was when Cam Newton, he had his Heisman year, and he straight up balled. It was when they played Alabama in the Iron Bowl, Bryant-Denny Stadium, and Alabama goes up big. They go up big, and it seemed like Auburn didn't miss a beat. Cam Newton handles his business and just brings the team back. And the reason that this moment was so significant for me was because, as I mentioned, T-Bird was another. His name is Terrence Walker, but T-Bird is another one who I got really close to that freshman year in college, and he was from Bruton, Alabama, but he was a huge Auburn fan. And to see Cam Newton put Auburn back on the map, win them a national championship, get the Heisman, the whole thing, I, again, immediately kind of thought back to the conversations myself and T-Bird would have. T-Bird was my first roommate when I got to Carson Newman my freshman year. So that comes in at 5 and 4. I mean, it had to be on the list because of my road dogs, my motherfucking guys, man. Two of my best friends on the team when I was at Carson Newman that freshman year, and we were all going through it like everybody does that freshman year in college. We were all going through it. So coming in at number 3 now is sort of when I started transitioning into adulthood, when I started to leave that teenage mindset and started to quote unquote adult, because number 3 is actually when Tebow won his first Tebow and the Florida Gators won their first national championship. And this was, if I'm not mistaken, the first year that the college football national championship was played on my birthday. Birthday's January 8th, and I remember going to watch that with my family and seeing Tebow reminded me of my man Anthony Bethel, who would, that was his team, the Gators, and he would constantly talk about how Tebow was the second coming. They had won that national championship against Ohio State 2 years his freshman year, and then they came back his junior year and won it again. And not only that, a couple months later, the guy that really put my high school, Good Counsel football on the map, his name is Jelani Jenkins, the most highly sought after recruit that year, committed to the University of Florida with Tebow. So, from that point, even though my heart of hearts, I'm a Michigan fan and I like to see Florida State do well, I have to always kind of support, I'm not going to badmouth, we'll say it like that. I'm not going to necessarily badmouth the Florida Gators, right? So that's coming in number 3, Tebow. And now, look at me, 30 minutes for the rest of our lives. Right. I listen to that at least 3 or 4 times a month just to get my mind right. All right, so coming in number 2. Now we down to my teams. Florida State is, again, second team I root for. I'm a diehard Michigan fan, but Florida State is the second team I root for. Every time I see that spare, it takes me back to my youth league football playing days when we had we had the spare White Oak Warriors, and we went on to win the national championship and all that. Got to take you back to Jameis Winston's, I believe he was a sophomore. He was a sophomore that year that he won the Heisman. and when he first broke on the national scene. Now, he was obviously a great player before that, but when I first heard about him was that game against Clemson, because Clemson, Florida State, believe it or not, was a big deal back then, back when the ACC actually had had a little something to work with. I mean, to take a shot at the ACC like that. But this was back where Clemson, Florida State was a huge game. And, you had Tebow doing his thing, and I believe it was Taj Boyd. Yeah, Taj Boyd was playing for Clemson. And this was, again, the year Jameis Winston won the Heisman, and they played Clemson in South Carolina, and they had all the trimmings. Clemson is coming out to the band, they're coming out to, they're running down the stadium. They do their normal entrance, which in my opinion is the second best entrance in college football. Obviously the first being Michigan Wolverines. But, they saw all that, and the cameras caught Jameis Winston. He goes, "My brothers, put some smiles on your faces. Put some smiles on your faces. We're not leaving without a victory. If we're going to do it, we're going to do it big." And he goes out and absolutely torches the Clemson Tigers. I mean, rams it up their ass en route to a national championship and a Heisman campaign. So the significance with that, like I said, I do cheer for Florida State when I'm not cheering for Michigan, is my roommate in college, Chris Brooks, the roommate I had when I was at Carson in that second semester. He's from Valdosta, Georgia, but highly huge Florida State fan. So, when they won that ship, I shoot him a text, tell him what up, maybe kind of think about him. And even when I got to Florida, I started working at this Orange Theory, and one of my best friends, or the person that I got closest to while I was at work, is a guy named Daryl Copeland, who actually played for Florida State. And then when I got to South Florida, I had a client, Allie and Phil Bennett, who Phil actually coached at Florida State. So there was a lot, every time I kind of go back, and that's another one where I'll watch the clip ever so often and just kind of think about giving it your all, putting it all in and all that kind of stuff. So here we go, baby. Number one, you know where I'm going with number one. 3 years ago, my team, the team I'm a diehard fan of, the Michigan Wolverines, finally beats Ohio State in Ann Arbor. And I'm telling you, the moment that sticks with me forever was when Juwan Howard, he grabs Coach Harbaugh, he looks at him, he goes, "Hey, they said you couldn't beat Ohio State. What now? What now? What now?" Oh, man, that was feeling good, man, because you had a Fab Five member, again, a person who's been doubted, had to prove the doubters wrong. He goes to Coach Harbaugh, another Michigan man, and he says, "What now? What now?" Now, the significance in that is, like I mentioned, my boy Say, back when I was at Carson Newman, he's from Ohio, reps Ohio football to the high, like one of the Mr. Ohio, I believe. He had that title at one point, Mr. Ohio, when he played football. Just an incredible athlete, and he was became like brothers that freshman year in college. And then on the other sideline, during the game, Ohio State, one of their strength coaches, was another teammate of mine who I became like brothers with. His name is Chris Fenelon. And now he's actually the strength coach at Temple now. But I was seeing him on TV, and he was one of my main competitors when we were actually playing at Stony Brook. And when you see the Stony Brook colors and the Ohio State colors, and then seeing that I was just a huge Michigan fan, it was a great just game in general. Even though, love those guys, love my boy Fenn, love my boy Say and all that, it was a great to see everything just kind of come together. And this was my first year actually being out here in West Palm Beach, and I was starting a new chapter myself. So seeing them win that game, there was a lot of significance and synergy on my end, and it was just a great moment. It was a great moment. That's why it is easily going to be, and that one actually trumps the national championship, to be honest with you. The national championship was great. It was on my birthday. I was on a cruise. But that moment when they beat Ohio State and I was seeing connections to former teammates, guys that I played with, and it was such a long time. And to see that moment where Juwan Howard grabs Coach Harbaugh and tells him, "What now?" It was just it hit a lot of chords with me, man. So, man, I know I got a whole lot longer. I knew this was going to happen because I've been thinking about this top five for a couple of days now. And as I mentioned to you, this is my sport. This is the sport that drives me. This is the entity that drives my business. So when we're talking college football, I can talk about it for hours upon hours upon hours. So just to recap, top 5 college football moments of my lifetime that I've seen that have a significant role in my life and what it is I do. Coming in number 5, South Carolina winning the SEC East Championship in 2009. One of my former teammate of mine, B. Smooth, was on that team, came from a Division II program, whiffing up the crowd, saw him on TV, was a great moment. Number 4, Auburn, back when Cam Newton carved up the Alabama Crimson Tide in the Iron Bowl. Thought about my boy T-Bird, back at Carson Newman. Number 3, Florida Gators, Tebow, look at me, 30 minutes for the rest of our lives. When they won the championship, this is when the championship was being played, first got played on my birthday, January 8th. Thought about my dog Ant and my teammate Jelani Jenkins, who committed to Florida just a couple weeks after that. And then coming in at number 2, Florida State, Jameis Winston carving up Clemson back during his Heisman campaign, and the cameras caught him right before the game, and he goes, "We're not leaving without a victory. We're not leaving. We're going to do it. We're going to do it big." So, thought about my dog, Chris Brooks, roommate of mine at Carson Newman, and co-worker Daryl Copeland at Orange Theory, and 2 clients of mine, Allie and Phil Bennett. Number 1, when Michigan first beat Ohio State in Ann Arbor 3 seasons ago. When I first moved there, it was when I first moved to West Palm Beach. Saw one of my former teammates, Chris Fenelon, as the strength coach at Ohio State, and thought about my boy Say, who's from Cincinnati, Ohio, reps Ohio football to the utmost. You know, two teammates who became like brothers to me. You know, kind of thought about them when I was watching that game, and for the first time in years, finally, after years of getting our ass kicked by Ohio State, Michigan finally got the monkey off our backs, and we finally got that dub. So, all that being said, main website to check out to dive deeper into all my work, it's makeyourmove.com. That's MakeYamove.com. One-stop shop for all your teamwork and your self-development needs. As one, Crookshank, your one and only Move Swiftly speaker checking out. You guys continue to move swiftly. We will talk more soon.